Hey, everybody. Welcome to the recap of the Walking Dead universe. We are here live every week to discuss the latest episodes. You can catch our recaps at any time, available on most major podcast platforms. So, subscribe for free on the app of your choice. For those of you joining us live today, thanks for taking time out of your evening to be here. I'm Tamara Ford, and I love a good TV show and a good book, of course. So, if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Recap Pods. And if you're into books, you can also find me at Shelf Addiction. Joining me is show co-host Lisa. Welcome, Lisa.
Hey Tamara, hey everyone. My name is Lisa Orban. I am an author and I'm also the founder of Indies United Publishing House. And I love all things pop culture. So if you want to find me anywhere online, look for me at Lisa Orban Author.
All right. So before we get started, we just want to remind you that we would love your participation in this conversation. So if you are listening live on YouTube or Facebook, hit us up in the comment section. If you are brand new, let us know where you're tuning in from. If you want to catch, oh my goodness, if you're catching this on a replay, you can still comment on any platform or you can call in using our voicemail link in the show notes. So we do want to hear from you and include your comments. If you are new to the podcast, we are laid back in our review style, aren't we, Lisa?
Absolutely. This is a conversation, not a dissertation.
Yeah, no scene by scene breakdowns here. We jump around a lot. Huge spoiler alert for everything through yesterday's episode across all the shows.
Absolutely.
Yes. So if you're cool with that, this is the place for you, and we should just jump right on in because there's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I liked this episode. Did you like this episode?
I did. I liked it a lot better than last week. So I was sitting there like, yes, this is good. We get to, I was super excited because we got to come back around to the place you keep mentioning that we never hear from.
I know.
We get to go to Oceanside. I'm like, what? They exist? They're still here.
They are still here. Although I guess,
Yes.
I did kind of find the one comment the one chick made at Oceanside. She's like, well, Alexandria has kind of come and gone over the years, but Hilltop has always been there for us. And I did kind of find that surprising.
Yeah. I was kind of like, well, was the other group not there for you? I was like, okay, what happened? Did I miss something?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did I miss something? Because anytime Oceanside is called, Alexandria has been there for them.
Right.
But I guess, I don't know. Maybe something happened that we all didn't see, but because the one season opened up with all of them training there in Oceanside,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was the mutual protection pack against the walkers and everything. I mean, I guess things might have slid a little bit after the bridge collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
That was really more Hilltop's fault. Yeah.
I know. I guess they just needed maybe a quick way for them to explain why they're siding with Maggie, and that's how they decided to serve it up to us, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Karita said, "Screw them. Michelle wasn't letting in new folks after she was kidnapped and beaten when she was pregnant." And during that flashback. Yeah, I remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's not they didn't diss Oceanside. They just weren't letting new people in.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't know. Yeah, it's
whatever.
fine. Yeah. Okay. So this episode starts kind of where we left off, and Max is explaining to Eugene like what happened. I thought that was really cool to see like that same scene at the ice cream stand from like a slightly different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Yeah.
see it from Max's point of view. And then when I noticed, I noticed it, but it just was more blaring this time how closely they were dressed. They had the same glasses.
Oh
The
yeah.
girl had on a similar wig, or her hair was done in a similar way. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, it's really blaring how similar she's trying to look to her.
Oh, yeah. And I and I understand her. She's like, "I can't believe you didn't realize it wasn't me,"
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And but Eugene being Eugene, and with the issues that he has, I I can kind of, as long as she had most of the right answers, and you can assume that Max's brother filled him in on the broad picture
Yeah.
of things. He probably just figured, you know well, maybe I'm a little off, or maybe I was assuming something. But I think mostly it was, she likes me. She likes me, and that's all he
Yeah,
could really see. You know what I mean? Because it's not like he's had a great deal of luck and love. Okay.
that is true. And when the small, brain is in charge, a lot of obvious things go out the window. Because
Hmm.
he's like normally a real critical, like he's a critically thinking person. Like as we saw last episode, he's investigating and breaking down everything and
Right.
scrutinizing everything. But she had a different voice, than Max. She didn't remember the ice cream. Like that
Right.
happened. She didn't know probably lots of other small details that the
Hmm.
real quote unquote Stephanie, aka Max, knew. So he was putting all of that aside because he was having a good time.
Yeah. Well, he was. I think there's what love is blind.
Hmm.
And I think he fell in love with this voice online. He probably assumed, well, maybe the voice sounds different because we're not on a radio. Maybe it was distorting it. You
Yeah.
can always find these little excuses um to explain away bizarre behavior. I mean, otherwise, let's face it, everyone that ever cheated would always be found out. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all make little excuses for other people's behaviors, and I think that's what he was probably unconsciously just waving away a lot of this stuff because she likes me, you
Right.
know.
Exactly.
And the idea of someone
Exactly.
else taking her place probably never even crossed his mind, that she was a double. I mean, who would think that just right off the flip? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would honestly right off the rip, no.
Hmm.
Um, but what was also interesting about her story is that we found out that her brother found out what she was doing and ordered her to
Uh-huh.
stop.
Well, because
Now,
they had realized there was an illegal transmission. So
yes,
he probably shielded her with, you know, the influence he has,
right.
and supplied what's his name? The worm guy, with the information he needed.
Yeah, and Cleo mentions that, Lance knows it was Max. Obviously he
Mhm.
must have because, Stephanie, aka Stephanie, was dressed like her and, got intel from,
Mhm.
her brother. But not only is her brother in a good position, but she is actually Pamela's assistant. So another reason not to like, people would ask, what happened to Max? Where's your right hand girl?
Right, exactly.
She couldn't just get in trouble and get tossed in the jail or whatever they like to do to people.
Mhm. Well, and Lance is, as we have figured out, is playing the long game.
Yeah.
And so, and it turns out, your prediction for last week was pretty spot on, which is he's looking at those three communities going, I, can be the governor, let's call it,
Yeah. Yeah.
of these colonies. Which, if he moves enough people, moves enough manpower, builds them up enough, could then rival the Commonwealth,
Mhm.
and puts him in a good position to fight for overall dictatorship.
I mean, he's so obvious, and Pamela clearly knows what he's doing or what he's trying to do,
Hmm.
but maybe she just doesn't think he has the ability to actually try to
Well, she
make it
called him
happen.
out on it. She
Yeah,
called
she
him out.
did. Yeah.
She's like, it's pretty slick you trying to bring in all three at one time. You
Mhm.
know? And and it turns out that it wasn't Pamela saying it's all three or nothing. It was him
Yeah.
trying to bring them all in all at once. But
Yeah, he was really trying to get some leverage or some,
mhm.
power. He is power hungry. Lance is power hungry.
Right. And it was I did one of the things I did like about this episode was throughout the entire episode they were making, if you watch, they're really showcasing, highlighting the differences between how the Commonwealth is organized and how all three of these communities are organized, which is it's all three of these communities are pretty Aquarian. They're all very equal. They're while there are leaders, everyone can is kind of the leader of their own thing. Some they each had their expertise. They had a council. They didn't have you know um a a singular person in charge.
Right.
Um
Hmm.
they were run by committee essentially. And
Yeah.
everyone got a everyone, if there was objections, anyone could object. Anyone could go their own. God knows Carol went her own way, other people went their own way.
Hmm.
um so it's you know and then that stark contrast between that and you know the Commonwealth, where you know she, Paula's dressed differently. She's in this confined little cubicle. As they travel, there's a definite stratification. Even when they first meet Maggie, Daryl jumps in to help, but the soldiers wait to do anything until they're given orders. They can
Hmm.
see that there are walkers on the road and people are fighting and struggling, and they deploy out to protect Paula, but they don't make a move to help until basically ordered to.
Yeah. That's
You
how
know.
actually that's probably really what Maggie didn't like about it. Like over the whole visit that Maggie had with,
Hmm.
Pamela, I don't think she appreciated how they could just run her over. They operate as a real military. They follow orders, they work as a unit, and they
Hmm.
are dangerous looking. They're they could come in and destroy them if they didn't
Yeah.
agree. So, yeah, there's a lot of that. But I have to say I did also enjoy the scenes between Maggie and Pamela.
Oh
Like
yeah.
when they were out hunting, that was awesome. That was a fun
Hmm.
scene.
Yeah. And
It
I think,
showed Go ahead.
well, and I think on a personal level that Maggie does like Paula.
You keep saying
She
Paula. It's Pamela.
Pamela. Sorry,
It's okay.
sorry,
You're
but
gonna have
Pamela.
me calling her the wrong name.
Hey, I got the one letter. I got the first and the last letter right. Okay,
Yeah.
and we're gonna blame the time change, and I'll find another excuse next week.
Okay.
But but yeah, I think that I think Maggie really liked her though. They are both leaders, and they both have similar worries. Now how they go about leading their communities again is very different. But
Right.
I think because you can see that Maggie was really thinking about it for a little while. Even though the soldiers didn't deploy immediately to help them out,
I
when
think she not necessarily I don't know if she necessarily likes her, but I think she respects her game. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
especially when she talks about, "Oh, I have all these people and I don't sleep at night because I'm thinking about these people." I
hmm,
think she tried to connect to her leader to leader, having the
right,
same stresses of taking care of other people. And I
hmm,
think she kind of did make a connection, but not enough for her to bend.
right. Well, no,
Yeah.
honestly, I think her Maggie's turning point, because so she had this connection, with Pamela.
Hmm.
All right, let me go. And she they came in and they were helping, and they gave him supplies, and there was food, And she was kind of softening up, her people, saying like they really did these things, Daryl talking to her, um you know and what's Adam from
Aaron?
or Aaron, yeah. And Aaron going, hey, they've done a lot of good things. They've, we can get this help and kind of see where it's going. And, but then, you can see her because Maggie's people were talking to her like, we could really use the help. Maggie's going, yeah. And she kind of smiled. She's like, yeah, I could see, you're right. We do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then when those walkers came and they went out to stop him, and the fact is that those soldiers, fired right at, they were there in that group, and even their leader didn't. I mean, he's like, fire, he's standing right there. um and they shot all those walkers, and that really threw her off, and then she's kind of where they're coming back, and um they pulled Daryl aside. There's a reason why you're out of uniform, but you still need to fall in. And so he kind of, falls in behind all the rest of the soldiers. And Maggie saw that, and she's like, "Oh wait, this is
Oh yeah.
Daryl. Daryl is falling in line."
Yeah.
And I think that worried her. And I can't say that I would that I am that I don't share worries, because I have shared Maggie's worries this whole time. I like the idea of having ice cream. I don't like how socially stratified, how socially stuck everyone is in their own level. I
Although, don't forget when they first arrived, Maggie asked Aaron and Daryl, why do you like her? What is this?
mhm,
And Daryl and Aaron, they're like, well, we don't trust her. Who says we trust her?
right,
Who says that?
right.
So basically, I feel like Daryl's just going along. He's going along, and I mean, he's already been warned from the inside too. Hey, it's not all it's cracked up to be. He's not
Mhm,
a dummy. So yeah, she may not like seeing him act in such a manner or be, called to duty, and he does it. But
mhm.
he's not an idiot. He's not drinking the Kool-Aid.
No, he's not. But I think, and I mean, personally, I kind of feel that I would have probably initially taken the help, and then once you got over the hump, go, you can all go away now. Yeah.
I renege. We're
I am
done.
reneging. Um, Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
But because they do need help. I mean, Maggie's little community is not doing well. That from comments of, we haven't eaten in a while, and there's a lot of problems obviously going on. Um, so I would, if nothing else, I'd say, okay, I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. We'll trade with you.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that I, say so much as I don't know, because I mean, Maggie's a good enough leader. She could have worked at a different kind of deal than what Alexandria has. We don't want the blanket help. Here's what we want. You can get, send your people, and you can get 10% of the crop that we bring, and 10% of the tools that we make, or whatever, and talk to Oceanside and say, you can, have access to the ocean through them and whatever. But there was a deal there to be made to get help without being in their debt. But
Yeah.
I think Maggie was very thrown off by the militant nature of what was going on.
I could see that. I mean, yeah, there was definitely the vibe that they brought that put her off,
Hmm.
definitely. And you're right. Maybe seeing Daryl in that state kind of was the tipping point, maybe,
I think it
especially
was the
after
final
that whole
straw.
the shootout thing. Yeah. It's like one thing after another. So she has like this quote unquote good afternoon with Pamela. And then
Mhm.
it's like, well, y'all over here shooting these guns. And honestly, those soldiers are a good shot. I mean,
Mhm.
they only got the walkers and no people.
Right. And it was one, I mean, it was one round and they were all down.
Yeah.
Which was impressive, don't get me wrong, but the feel that they had was very, Star Wars, imperialism,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um and while Paula
Pamela.
Pamela
There you
didn't
go.
come off as a Darth Vader type, Lance certainly does. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that's I think Maggie had some legitimate concerns. I have the same concerns, and it's not that Daryl doesn't have them, or anybody else. It's just they were Alexandria was willing to go, okay, we need the help, we want to get things together. Daryl's like, I want to keep the kids safe, so concessions are being made, and
Right.
and Maggie does say sometimes nothing's free, and sometimes the
Right.
price is too high.
Yeah, and she doesn't know what that price is yet, but she's
Right.
thinking whatever it is, it's going to be more than she wants to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't blame her because I mean, honestly, you're right. She could have negotiated or tried to, but it seemed like Lance is such a asshole. He's not going to be negotiating. He's like,
No.
we offered her this, the same thing as Alexandria, and she said, no. So, whatever. I mean,
Right. Well, and
uh,
because Lance is, he's looking for a particular kind of deal.
right.
Because he does. So he's essentially wants to set himself up as the, regional governor or something for the communities, I'm sure. And
You,
he
I,
states pretty much the same thing, to Pamela.
yes, I wish we could have seen even a snippet of that conversation between Lance and Aaron because
Mhm.
I was like, he is all in. And he's like chit chatting with him and he's like even being reprimanded by him. Like, how dare you not give me the heads up? I'm like, what the actual is happening here?
Yeah.
Like,
And I
they're
was kind of
actually working in concert or something. That's what it seemed like anyway.
well, I did notice when when they first approached Alexandria, when he started yelling at people, "Hey, cover up that window." Hey, they were
Mm-hmm.
covering things up.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a good enough look to see if they were covering up things that were still damaged or they were things that he didn't want Lance to see.
Yeah. Maybe a little of both.
Because he was trying very hard to present a particular picture. And
Right.
he did point out the walker got in and it was his people that are supposed to be guarding the gates
Yes.
and the area. They're in charge of, that security. So, and they did kind of fail him in that. I did think it was kind of interesting though that uh, Pamela and the original leader of Alexandria, I can't remember her name now, knew each other.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of interesting. And she was talking to Daryl about it, and you could see that she's like, "Oh, I see that you admired her." Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I did. But then again, she was a very different kind of leader. She
Mhm.
was with the people. She wasn't holding herself apart,
Right. She
and
didn't
she
have a
didn't.
huge house with a nice car.
Right. Um.
Speaking of which, side note, I have to say this. I saw this and I was like, "Really?" So when they first went to I think it was Oceanside, and yes, it was Oceanside, and
Mhm.
Pamela is chilling in the sand with
Mhm.
her toesies in the water. I'm like,
Loving it.
this girl got a French manicure on her. She got a French pedicure. This what? Did you notice her toes?
Yes, I did. They
She had
were
a
very pretty.
I'm like, this girl had a pedicure. She came out of her town to go visit people. I'm like, what? Look at this hoe. I mean, she got makeup on, clothes, and a pedicure. I'm like, okay.
Well, in her clothes. Even I mean,
Right.
her she's wearing writing clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. She's got the short coat and the tan pants with the patches and everything. I mean, that's she was ready to go on into the English countryside for, a fox hunt.
I was just
Even
thinking,
her
like,
gun.
yeah, she like went off like she's meeting with the royals to go shoot some fox or something. You said, like, that's exactly what it was. And then when she and Maggie went hunting, I'm like, oh, well, I guess she's dressed for it.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways actually she was more like the British Empire going out and collecting colonies. You
Oh
know,
gosh. Yeah.
I mean that's and but she did have a good point. You can't have 100 different city states fighting with each other, and that is true.
It is
If,
true.
if they're going to rebuild civilization, you cannot have every little city, every little fiefdom that builds itself up fighting with the others.
Mhm.
Um, I think they were surprised the fact that Alexandria, Hilltop, and Oceanside did work together and trade and help each other out. Had a mutual protection pact. Because I get the feeling they have met other communities, and that has not been the case.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that did impress her, but at the same time, there's no way that she would emulate or equal, equality stance that all these other, that the other three communities had. Because she
Yeah.
likes her nice things. Well,
Yeah,
the
she
people
does.
need something to look up to, something to strive
Right.
for. You might work hard, but you're not working that much harder. And it doesn't really look like you're
Yeah.
working all that hard, really. All right.
Yeah. But
um,
that picture she painted for her did sound lovely,
yes, it did.
like this, take your kid off to college, you go up the stream to another community, what's there, that sounded great. It sounds great.
It does.
Yeah.
And I can't say that that wouldn't be to have your children grow up in a safe environment, to know that they're going to have enough to eat, that they're going to be able to make it. And it does seem that at the Commonwealth, even at the bottom, you do get enough to eat, even if it's not good. And you will get a place to stay, even if it's crap. You have a roof over your head, even if the walls are thin. So there is a base minimum, so there's no homelessness per se.
Right.
But but again, the difference between the top and the bottom is extreme.
Mhm.
And if you go to Hilltop, Alexandria, or Oceanside, there is no if one person is suffering, pretty much everyone is.
Right.
No one's singled out, everyone is equally taken care of, everyone gets a say in it. Now, as big as the
Yeah.
Commonwealth has gotten, there does need to be, it can't just be everyone making their own decisions, but things could
No.
be more fair.
Yeah, she could have a council as well to kind
Right.
of offset her. um, but yeah, she doesn't do that because she likes having the authority.
Mm-hmm.
But, like you said, and I agree 100%, you can't have 50,000 people and a bunch of little segregated groups inside of that. Like,
Right.
that would be a mess. Everyone doing their own rules, getting their own food. Like, you need a system. You have to with that many people.
Right. You
But
know,
it's not cool how she's doing it.
right. But it could be more, uh, again, it could be more fair. You know,
Yeah.
it, everyone could be, their base, if nothing else, their base standard of living could be better, you know,
Yeah.
um, by the top having slightly less, the bottom could have a more livable situation.
Well, they
Um,
definitely should not be having fancy ass balls.
yeah,
And I just think that is the most ridiculous. That is some like Hunger Games capital city type mess. I'm like, what
yeah,
is
and and
this?
and,
Yeah.
and it does kind of have, depending on where you fall, it's kind of like it is the Hunger Games all within that one city.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't. and again, if I had been living in Alexandria and then pulled into there, I would be very uncomfortable with the whole thing.
Mhm.
And there are better ways to run it, but being a dictator is one of the easier forms of government.
It
You don't
is.
answer to anybody. You make all the final rules, and this is a place where if you don't like it, they kick you out.
Yeah,
And
you have to rule with a level of fear, right? To keep people in line if that's the way you want to run things.
and Lance is part of that fear part of it.
Mhm.
She doesn't technically get her hands dirty. She points at something and says, "Take care of it." But she doesn't personally get her hands dirty. That's what Lance is for.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she knows that, and Lance knows it, but he's willing
Mhm.
to go, that's fine. I'll do your dirty work, because then I can, while I'm doing your dirty work, I can also set up my little dirty, empire. So
Well,
yeah.
talking about like classism and all that stuff they have going on there, when we get around to like seeing Eugene, he go not Eugene, I'm sorry, Ezekiel, he goes and he has his blood drawn. He's
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, this is just a regular appointment. And then he gets
Mm-hmm.
told, hey, guess what, man? It's time for your surgery.
Yeah.
We're gonna and he's like, what? He is confused. And Jerry is just like, hype man, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You deserve a
All
break.
right, boss.
Yeah. And I'm like, of course, leave it to Zeke to be like, well, how does this? And of course, he's no dummy. How is this possible? And they're asking, well, what about his bills? I'm like, bills? I mean, how do you? What were I don't even know how the Commonwealth can like get hospital bills and medical bills. Like this sounds crazy to me.
Yeah.
Are you that far? You can pay bills, but
Well, and I'm getting the impression that everyone coming in is initially levied a but some kind of a debt to them, so to speak,
mm-hmm,
that they then have to pay off through their work. And that's part, if you get a job that pays you, quote unquote, enough, you have a high enough statute job, your debt is quickly eliminated.
yeah,
But
yes,
he's a zookeeper essentially,
he
and
can't,
it
yeah,
he doesn't, so he still has the initial debt for being there.
right. And then so he goes and Carol asks him, how'd your appointment go? And he tells her, and she's like, oh, that's great. And he's looking at her like, oh, no, 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 no. What did
I
you
know.
do? He
What did
knows
you?
her.
Yeah, he's met her. She's a.
What? Yeah,
He Lance owed me a favor, and
yeah,
it does kind of surprise me that he didn't ask what the favor was, because he also knows Carol has a particular set of skills.
yeah,
Um, he probably doesn't want
yes.
to know.
Yes, not he probably doesn't. You're right. Like that's just one step too much. But he actually had the gall to be upset about it. But the one thing that Carol said rang true, and I think it got through to him. She's like,
Hmm.
just because the system is broken doesn't mean you need to die.
Yeah, lesser men
And
have gotten more.
yes, and you
For
deserve it. Basically, you're a much better man than they are, and you would do something with this,
hmm
right?
yeah,
And
and I
he's
like
like,
that. I like the line, "You are not a lesser man,"
mm-hmm,
and he's not.
no,
This is a man who ran, a community, and even as a self-proclaimed King Ezekiel,
mm-hmm,
his city was fair.
yeah,
There was, again, if someone in his community was starving, it's because even he was starving.
mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm,
lived slightly better than the average person, but not by much. And everyone, him and Carol and their son, they all pitched in. They all had jobs. They all contributed.
right,
And they hunted and negotiated and you know fetched and carried and fixed as needed. And he was the king. And
yeah,
he with a court. That was,
Right.
instead of calling it, a community board or whatever, he had a court, and they
Right.
all pitched in, and that's, you know, Ezekiel to this day has, um, I just had his name, Jerry, has Jerry's undying loyalty.
Mhm.
You know, he
Yeah.
won't call him king anymore, but he will call him boss.
He would still be calling him king if he allowed it, but he said,
Yeah,
"Don't call me that."
yeah. So
You know?
boss, and that's,
Right.
he never calls him by his first name. It's always boss.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, Jerry is, that is a kind of loyalty that, um Pamela will never have.
No. That's the kind of loyalty that Daryl had with Rick.
Right. And Jesus had to Maggie.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a kind of loyalty you can't
You
buy, and
can't
you can't
buy
get, it for
Jinx.
fear.
Right. It has to be
It
earned.
has to be earned. And
Yes.
she hasn't earned it. I mean, she's taken it. She has demanded it. She has set things up so that if you don't, you die. But that's not the same.
No.
Fear can get you far, but it only so far. Love, people that love you, care about you, look up to you, respect you, um, that can't be bought. It's
Right.
earned. And all the leaders from Alexandria, Hilltop, the Kingdom, Oceanside, every one of their leading figures got there because they were respected.
Mhm.
And Pamela was, I mean, when they were at Alexandria, she was talking to Daryl, and she's like, "So you were the leader here?" Well, one of,
Yes.
sometimes,
He's like, "So yeah, kind of,
kind
but
of.
yeah."
And then she's like, "Well, where did you get the? I didn't know you had an engineer." Well, we didn't have an
You
engineer. We
don't.
got the plans
Yeah.
from Maggie, and then we figured it out, and we built it together. And you could kind of see her shock, that they figured out. They had done so much. You
She's like,
know,
"You guys figured this out without an engineer?"
yeah,
Dun dun dun. Like
yeah.
she couldn't believe it. Like,
And
wow.
she's like, "I
Yeah.
didn't realize there was an engineer. I there was no reports of an engineer being among your people. Well, we don't have an engineer. You
But
know."
that also ties into what was asked of Daryl. Like, what did you do before? Does it
Hmm.
matter? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It only matters in the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth makes
Right.
a big deal of what you were before, because part of Pamela's base is that what you did before matters, because that's why she can be leader.
Right.
She was, she was in politics. She was, important. She was an important person before. She was a rich person before.
Yeah.
Um, Ergo, she should still be important now, even though she really, I mean, she's good at hunting. Don't, she's good with a gun, obviously. But does she really have any skills that put her above anyone else?
Not
No,
really. But I
no.
do think that skills of the past do have a weight in the situation. For example, doctors are doctors. You need
Right,
doctors.
right,
Doctors of the past teach new doctors, right?
right. But
New right. So,
then again, I mean, again, when you go to Alexandria, when you go to Hilltop, when they had doctors, they weren't, you know, they weren't treated any, you know,
no, they
more
were a part of
special.
society.
Yeah.
Everyone in those smaller communities that we know are consider themselves equal. They're all equal
Mhm.
footing, and that is a big distinction
Yeah.
between everyone else in the Commonwealth how they operate.
Mhm.
But, you know, those jobs, yeah, it might have been easier for them to do it if they had an engineer, but they didn't, so they made it happen, right? I
Yeah.
wouldn't say if an engineer came knocking, "Can I join your group?" I wouldn't say, "No, we don't need an engineer." I'd
Right.
be like
Exactly. They wouldn't turn him away because he was an
Right,
engineer.
right,
I mean, but I really think, with very few differences. I mean, farmers, you know, That's a good skill to have right now, so that's important. But honestly, being a lawyer really is that important in an apocalypse? Well, in the Commonwealth, that puts you in the high strata. But really, for
Yeah.
survival
No.
benefits, how high is a lawyer really going to get you?
Honestly,
Are
they
you going
might
to
have
sue
some
the
soft
zombies?
skills. They might have some soft skills that could be used when it comes to negotiating with other groups, get making people get along. There's things that lawyers could do, but it may not be in a court of law. But there
Yeah,
are some soft skills that people can use. Just like everyone else, like Daryl. He wasn't a leader in any capacity, but he is
no,
now,
he was a drug
right?
dealer essentially.
Right. But guess what? They have soft skills too that they
Yeah,
can apply to other things. So
right. It's just that just because, like I said, lawyers shouldn't automatically skyrocket you up to the high strata. The skills that you have should be what's important.
yeah,
And the fact that they're basically pigeonholing a lot of people into what they were
before.
prior to,
Mm-hmm.
and even neglecting the skills that they gained, while the apocalypse was happening, that would be very beneficial to that society.
Yeah, but she's
The
not thinking of it that way. She's already
No,
said in a previous episode, we're trying to rebuild what we had before.
right,
So she gives zero craps about anything new. She's not
exactly.
about that. So
Oh yeah, and I mean, in some ways, again, ice cream. I keep
yeah,
going back to the ice cream because I like ice cream. Um, and that's a novelty for now. I mean, that is something that is just really out there. It's ice cream. Come on.
oh, I
Um,
know.
but you know,
Ice cream, cake, wine, cookies, wine. Oh my God. Give
yeah,
I'll go. Can I get some wine, please?
exactly.
Right.
So I mean, these are those are good things. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong; those are excellent things. And I think Alexandria, given enough time, would have eventually provided a lot of those things, to their people, given enough time.
Yeah,
But
they had I remember at that one event they had, the carnival or the little
uh
festival
huh,
or whatever, they had like candy apples. Like,
yeah, they had,
look at them making candy
yeah,
apples.
and they did have baked
Yeah,
goods, and they had a
they
lot of
did.
nice. There was a lot of nice things going on there.
Yeah.
It's just and I will say that once once the kingdom fell, that was kind of the turning point for every other community, where everything kind of started going bad,
Mhm.
you know.
Hmm.
And because up to that point, with the kingdom still going, and they were having that festival, I mean, it was showing how strong they had become, how secure that they were, that they had the excess to have a fair to go and trade. Um, that meant all the communities that were coming together and doing this, it was, um, that they were building something together. But you know between Alpha and all of her dirty dealing, and then the fall of Alexandria, or the fall of the kingdom, that was kind of the beginning of the big fall for the other three communities, because they really had become very interconnected. So even though the people of the kingdom spread out between the other three communities, the loss of you know the kingdom altogether was a devastating blow. It was,
Absolutely.
and it really was the beginning of all the other problems that kind of came after.
Yeah, for sure. But like even kind of like thinking about what could happen going forward, I'm still at a loss with how they're going to handle the Commonwealth. Like, how is this going to shake out? I'm still at a loss for it because this is not as simple as take out the whisperers because they are
Right,
dangerous. This is not as simple as Negan needs to go, right? He
right,
is dangerous. This is a much bigger level than they've ever dealt with. There's a lot of people in that community. And it's not going to be, obviously Lance is a villain, right? That is
right,
clear. He is a villain.
right.
But I don't think handling Pamela in that same way is going to do the trick. I think
No.
I don't know. Something
Well,
else is going to happen.
and even Daryl says, about 85% of the people seem to be nice,
Yeah.
and for the most part, everyone that we've met, in the common people, I guess you could say, seem generally likable. They're not terrible people. These aren't, they're not all villains, and so no, you don't want to. This isn't a situation where you can just go and attack them,
Mhm.
and so they're either going to have to work out some good deal, um or it's they're just going to have to walk away and say, I don't know what's going on with y'all, but we are far away. They are a state away. We know now that they're a state away, so this is a distance they're going. And so it would be very hard. Well, not very hard, I suppose. They do have the military and they're a really good shot, but it would
Yeah.
be, you know it would be uncomfortable for the
Mm.
Commonwealth to try and, the Commonwealth has two options here: kill them all, integrate them, or leave them be. Those
Right.
are the three options. And so, sorry guys,
Yeah,
but
I mean, by Pamela's commentary, right? It seems like,
mhm,
oh well, let's just leave them. Her opinion is leave them be. That's what it seemed like,
right,
right?
until she went
At
to
first
Oceanside.
glance,
Yeah.
right? But I still think she feels that way. I still don't think she's gonna try to fight
Yeah.
Maggie to change. She's not gonna try to twist her arm. I don't think.
No, I
That's
don't
gonna
think
be
so.
all
And
Lance.
and I think that, I mean, I think she's hopeful that maybe if they can't have the deal they want, that perhaps some, I think she's kind of hoping that they can make some kind of deal. And I don't, and the thing of it is, I don't really think she cares at all about Hilltop. She kind of likes Maggie, but um, Hilltop is whatever. Alexandria, she probably has a little bit of she's impressed because, they have nice houses and, the solar panels and all that kind of stuff. So, she's a little more impressed with them, but it's Oceanside. That's the prize she wants. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
access to
ocean.
that water. Yeah.
Yeah, it's access to the beach, to the ocean. Because I mean, think about it, especially with her, the way she runs her society, being able to offer the elites a beach
Pamela's gonna have a
vacation.
beach house built. She's gonna be like, I need to go
Yeah.
to my beach house for the weekend.
Oh yeah, but to
um,
the elites offering,
yeah.
a beachside, vacation. Oh God, that would be such a boost to power. And I think that's what Lance is thinking there too, especially with Oceanside. Being able
Yeah.
to leverage that kind of, you know, nostalgia for the old days. Go on a vacation. You can now go on a vacation to Oceanside. Yeah.
Well, Lulu suggests or says, is Lance a villain, or is that a swerve the show is trying to pull?
I
I think he's a villain.
I think he's a villain the same way again that the governor was. Was
Yeah.
the governor really a bad guy? Honestly, no, he wasn't. Was he a bad person? Yeah, he was kind of
He
slimy.
was sick. He had some problems.
He had issues. He had
Yeah.
issues. Let's not lie here.
Yeah, he was
But
sick in the
was
head.
he but was he bad in the same way as, say, um Negan was when he ran the
No, he's
Saviors?
not
No.
slamming people in the head with bats.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So,
You
and I
know,
think Lance is just like one of those like he thinks he's powerful, but he's not that powerful. Like those
yeah.
really weak people that really want to exude confidence and just really try to check. He wants to be powerful so bad. He's faking it until he makes it.
Right. He's
But I don't think
skeezy.
he'll. Yeah, he's skeezy. He's like that skeezy villain with a little chuckle in the background in the
Uh-huh.
corner. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think he's.
he's
Yeah,
not really a bad guy. Not again like
not
a
yet.
Negan. Um
No.
and you're but he's not a good person. And he's looking at people, and he's looking at situations in from what can I get out of this? Not who can I help? Even
Yeah.
helping the workers had really nothing to do with helping the workers.
No.
It was to increase productivity, so he can get more drugs. Everything is done from a very selfish point of view,
Yes,
and
I
he can
can
play a
also
nice
see
guy.
he can play a nice guy, but I can also see that he has a very vindictive personality.
Hmm.
He's very like at that last scene where he's like shooting the walkers
Yeah,
because he's upset.
yeah.
It's like that is that childlike rage. Like he's mad, he's stumping his feet. So I feel
He's
like
petulant.
he's
He's
petulant. He
he's
has some
petulant.
this I think he has it in him to do something really bad just because he's pissed off that he didn't
Hmm.
get what he wanted.
Oh yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
can see him being petty.
yeah,
Oh, so petty.
right.
And he's kind of shown sides of that of being petty.
Mm,
We've already seen little shades of that.
yeah.
When things have not gone exactly his way. So, and he's not above using people, lying, manipulating. And again, he told Aaron that it was all three or nothing, and that was not the case.
Right.
He had Aaron in a panic, for no good reason, other than he was trying to consolidate a power base for himself.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
didn't like the way Aaron was acting around him. I mean, honestly, I feel like Aaron has been pulled in hook, line, and sinker. He is like on this road permanently. Like, what he seems more like he's drinking the Kool-Aid than anyone else,
right?
just
Well,
because how he's talking to Lance and dealing with Lance.
but I think part of that has to do with Grace. You know, Daryl opted to take the kids to the city. He decided to stay in Alexandria, but I mean, he is a parent. Um he wants those things for his kids, for them to go to school, to have the ice cream, to live, grow up safe, to have an education. Those are things that he wants. And he knows that by teaming up with the Commonwealth, he can get that in his daughter's lifetime rather than his grandchildren's lifetime. you
Yeah.
know and as a parent, I can understand that. I get it. um
But you
because he
don't have
knows.
to become his lackey to do it. Just
No,
look
you don't.
at Daryl. He's nobody's lackey. He's still getting what he needs, right? He's doing what he needs to do to get what he needs, but he's
Hmm.
not some simpering idiot, you know what I mean? Or Carol, she got something very important that she needed for
Hmm.
Ezekiel, but she's not drinking, she's not wagging her tail and tongue out chasing behind Lance. Like,
Yeah,
she has a different, they both have a different way of dealing with people. They're still bending a little bit because they're doing things to get what they want, but they're not like just rolling over. And I felt
yeah.
like Aaron was just rolling over. That's how it felt to me.
I don't know. Like I said, he was having them, cover up things and hide things and kind of pushing Lance away from various places. So I'm wondering if
I
there's
don't
something
know.
more, and he doesn't want what he is setting up to get sidetracked, you
Yeah.
know. And I do want to mention, though, I kind of want to go back to Eugene for a few
Hmm.
minutes. Him sitting on the lake,
Oh
and
yeah.
I really thought that was kind of an important moment in his life,
Yeah.
because he was reflecting. He's like, and you know, he's like, yeah, I just, when I lied to you guys, like, oh, Eugene, oh, it's water under the bridge, but for him, that's very immediate because he was really hurt by Max lying to him and the manipulation, but at the same time, he had that realization. Wait a minute, I've done this.
I was a big fat liar.
Yeah, I was a
And
big fat liar.
yeah. And Rosita really put that in perspective for him. Like,
Hmm.
and I think now he has a different perspective on Max and the whole situation,
Yeah, because
Maybe
he
he's
could have
not
told
as
her.
hurt. Right.
Well, and he could have told Rosita, they lied to us to get us in here. That the whole thing was a setup.
Yeah.
And but he chose not to. And I kind of think it's because he realized, I was, she did lie to me, but she really did try. She was going to come. She was, her plan was to meet him.
Mhm.
Uh, that was the plan. Her brother, on the other hand, took it
Yeah,
over.
she got busted.
Yeah,
So,
busted.
yeah.
And so I think that was kind of a watershed moment for Eugene. This he Eugene has never been used by somebody that we've seen like he used Rosita,
Mhm.
or Abraham, and he got played.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but Max didn't do this. This wasn't deliberate. This wasn't intentional. The using part.
Right.
Other than the name, she was truthful with him, as much as she could be.
Yeah, she was
And
smart not to use her real name because
hmm
obviously people heard. She knew people
yeah,
could hear, like, it's a possibility, so I'm gonna use a fake name.
hmm so
That's smart.
I yeah, but I did, and then the two of them, him going back to her and bringing her the ice cream and um apologizing.
Yeah.
And I really, and I kind of felt for him when he's like, girls, he's like, that I'm not like other people. I have a hard time, you know with things like this, and I haven't, and she liked me, and it was felt good to be liked. So you can kind of feel for him at that moment that, yeah, he was stupid not realizing that, the person he was talking to wasn't the person he was talking to, on the radio. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you could kind of feel for him because it was, he was being honest. I was, I was not well liked, and I don't
Yeah.
understand people very well, and you can tell. I mean, he tries very hard to understand people, but he's not there.
No, there's a disconnect when it comes to, like, emotional, like, just translation, right? Like, how to even connect, like, on that more, like, a different level. He's, like, very technical, black and white.
Literal.
Yes. And it's difficult for him, but his friends are there to help them, him as they
Hmm.
have done again and again, like help him see it a little differently, maybe just talk it through with him. And he comes around. So he's not hopeless, he
Right.
just needs a little more work in
He's
certain
clueless.
areas.
He's not
Yeah.
hopeless. You know,
Right.
and as long as
Exactly.
someone leaves the breadcrumbs out for him, he can eventually catch up.
Right.
But yeah, I really did kind of, for Eugene. I really thought that was an interesting. It was a good moment for him. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
And I enjoyed the hearing about the old Eugene again. Like, let's not
Mm-hmm.
forget who he was.
Right.
Let's not. He's
The
grown a
coward.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
he's grown a
coward.
lot.
The one who hid behind everyone else and manipulated people. And I know from his point of view, he didn't look at it as manipulation. He saw it as survival.
Right.
Um, but again, I mean, it's, he has grown so much, and
Yeah.
we still don't trust him 100% because he still is Eugene.
I mean, he's
But
still, told about his communities like the minute he thought he was in real big trouble.
yeah,
So
he's still Eugene, but
he still is.
he is a better version of himself.
Right.
He
Agreed.
so baby steps, I suppose.
Baby steps. I did not watch the preview for next week. What did you see that was interesting on the preview? Did you watch it?
I did. Um, it's kind of more of this. It's basically more of the setup for a confrontation. Maggie and her group meet up with another survivors group,
Mhm.
and it the previews, it seemed to indicate that there was going to be a conflict, either between that was either going to draw in the Commonwealth, or the Commonwealth had already had dealings with these people before, and
Mm. Mhm.
so So there will be another group introduced next week.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to see what that's about. That should be fun. I'm actually looking forward to it because I saw it, a couple days ago, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till Monday so I can watch that episode.
Yeah, it did look interesting. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie, the previews for next week did look interesting.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. You guys, thank you so much for being here with us live. We appreciate you. Be here next week so we can talk about next week's episode. Hopefully it'll be just as fun as this one was so we can dive into all the things. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
still listening to my voice right now, if you're on the replay and you've listened to the end, we appreciate you for doing that. And you come back next week as well. So we
That's
are
right.
done, aren't we, Lisa?
We are done.
All right, guys. We will see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.